Live streaming. It's basically the next level of traditional TV, but with the viewer feedback baked right in. It's like the old public access channels, but the tech finally caught up with the interaction. Some people stick to a structured program, others just let the group's vibe take over and decide what happens next. Depending on the topic, this could be a fun group exercise or a classic example of mob mentality gone wrong. We all know the big players in this space, like Twitch, YouTube, and TikTok. But today, I would like to have a look at when Reddit decided to dip its toes into this medium. What was supposed to be a small, social distancing practice for a few weeks turned into nearly 3 years of a very unique experiment. This video is kind of like an archaeological dig, because almost all of the original RPAN footage has been wiped from the internet. But luckily, I recently got to chat with a few people who actually streamed on RPAN, and they were cool enough to let me take up some of their time as we took a trip down memory lane. We'll call this RPAN Off Air.
Yeah, it had been, I didn't know quite what it was at first. It was, showing up on the mobile app, which was the main way that I was using Reddit at the time. And I think it had been running for probably 6 months at the time. I wasn't there at the very beginning of it.
I just noticed, wow, press here to live stream, and I'm like, well, let's try it out. What's the worst that can happen? Obviously I got some time, and since I'm not performing and, in the usual ways, and why not? Can't hurt to try.
Initially, Reddit made it real easy for you to jump in and let your curiosity take hold. Have a phone? Maybe something to hold it up? Good luck and have fun.
I originally started on the Reddit app on my phone. And initially I bought, just a little iPhone holder that I could mount on a tripod.
I was a million things. I used to stream some games, and I used to sing and play the lute. I just, it was a great experience, and I would stream everything.
The vast majority of my streams were about puppies. I did 1 or 2 streams in other categories, but the vast majority of it was showing my foster puppies, my foster mamas.
And therein lies what was a major hook. You weren't required to make a whole production out of it like these huge streamers on other platforms. It was just an expression of your passions or simply sharing your time with others.
For me, what changed it was when they released RPAN Studio, which was basically their streamlined version of OBS, because I didn't know anything about regular streaming at the time. And when they released RPAN Studio, and you could actually stream games and stuff to it instead of just like Periscope style stuff.
Early on, there was only one subreddit dedicated to the broadcast feature. Once they decided to keep it going, new more pointed subs became available to categorize what you did. Even still, a lot of flexibility was there.
Well, I was trying a bunch of different things, and it really wasn't until, and I've always been a fan of the Grateful Dead. I've seen the Grateful Dead, and that's when I noticed the numbers just jumping on me.
So, RPAN went from being active during this limited window of time and day, to now having multiple subs that needed to be moderated, to being accessible 24/7. Redditors could now stream whenever they wanted, and potentially find themselves in front of a large crowd.
Definitely one of my singing streams. I don't remember exactly which one, but I just remember my voice sounded really good. My lute was in tune for once. Everything was lining up. I had like 4,000 people watching. People were actually sending me money through PayPal.
And that's when, 2 or 3 went to 20 to 800 to 20,000 or whatever ridiculous number it was. And, at that point I said, this is something.
But on Reddit, they just dump you with 6,000 viewers and see who could handle it. This race of attention. And that's what I think led to the also more interesting streams, is it wasn't just, people, there were people talking, but you weren't going to get to the front talking. You had to do the best Jenga in the world. There was a guy who was amazing at Jenga.
While that might have been generally true, Reddit has a way to celebrate their in-jokes. Whether it was a stream entirely dedicated to the inside of a fridge, or someone hitting a magic number.
But with RPAN, I was streaming my puppies usually almost every day. And bad days on RPAN were getting 50 to 100 viewers. Good days were 23,000 simultaneous viewers if you hit the algorithm just right.
Regardless of that, it was a unique experience to have this number of people share in this collective activity. While the vast majority of this was very positive, the introduction of many voices will eventually result in some negativity.
The weirdest comment I ever got, I was working on my Assassin's Creed costume. This guy messages me and he's like, "You look like you play Fortnite and watch your parents have sex." And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean?
That, I think, was, random and weird. And yeah, it was that dumping in, but it gave people a burst of fame that I still think if Twitch or these other channels could figure out a way to do that part of a, side app or something. But I think it really helps discovery.
You guys want to put me on Cringetopia? Yeah, I'd be okay with that. Get some karma on Reddit? Yeah, Reddit? Big Chungus, Keanu Reeves? Huh? Wholesome 100?
I'll get a comment of, clean that damn pen. I'll get a comment of, where's mom? I'll get another comment of, why are you breeding your puppy? Why are you breeding your dog? She needs a lot of food, right? Where's her food? Where's her water? In some of the streams, every 5 minutes, I'm like, there's a half-gallon water bowl just off screen.
I found that the negative comments were just so far and few between. I mean, if I'm looking at 700 comments and 6 of them are negative, what does that tell you?
And of course, this is the best way to look at this circumstance. While we tend to give a lot of weight to the less helpful or outright mean people, they were actually in a very small minority. You need to just step back, and look at the broader picture.
If it's constructive criticism, then I'm all ears. I'm happy. I'm open-minded. Especially since a lot of this is so new to me at the time, and somebody who's doing this longer and maybe hearing or seeing something differently, that they had an actual suggestion that was beneficial, then sure.
Throughout the project, there were many changes to try to keep up with demand. But maintaining a live streaming service is no small feat. It's a resource hog. High-fidelity video requires massive bandwidth and even more expensive storage.
A bunch of us had been expecting it for a while. And honestly, I was one of those. Because on the one hand, Reddit was saying, hey, we've got some job openings, but there were bugs that weren't getting fixed. There were features that were breaking that weren't getting fixed. And so there was a lot of them saying we're not going to get rid of RPAN. At the same time, RPAN wasn't getting maintenance.
I wasn't devastated, but I was pretty sad. I was like, well, there's other streaming platforms. I might be able to build a fan base somewhere else. There's always YouTube. There's even TikTok, even though I don't really stream on TikTok.
Yeah, I'm going back to school for media production, film and media production, so I can set up with the Comedy Cellar or the Comic Strip or one of these places, interview people and then put that on Reddit. And that's all skills that came, that I'm learning, but that what drove me to that was getting into this through the Reddit streaming.
And I took all the things I learned, like some video editing, posting on Reddit. So I advertise on Reddit my shows, and just the social media experience in general. So when I put this band together, we had 0 social media presence, but I knew how to build it. I'm not trying to blow up my YouTube. It's primarily a vehicle to just send links to other venues and say, here's my shows. You can see the interaction. You can hear how we sound and play. And if you want to hire us, great, give me a date.
After all was said and done, the one question remained. Would you go back if it started up again?
Oh, hell yes.
I would be on it within seconds.
No question. I would go back and start working on sewing stuff again and music. I would just love it.
The response was almost universal. A rapid-fire yes followed by memories of this digital third space. But as the dust settled on our conversations, Adam Castle offered a different perspective. One that suggests that maybe the magic of RPAN wasn't just in the service itself, but in its finite nature.
That's a great question. I don't know. And part of me would feel like I'm taking a step back, where I feel like what I'm doing right now is stepping forward. And the fact that I've basically found this new purpose that's working really well for me that I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for all of it. I'm grateful for, the experience I've had with it and what it's became after.
And that might be the ultimate find in this archaeological dig. RPAN wasn't a failed business model or a bug-ridden mistake. It was this bridge that took us from the isolation of a global pandemic and deposited us back into the world with new skills, new friends, and a reminder that even in the most chaotic corners of the internet, we can still find a way to stay in touch. Just wanted to close out here saying thank you for watching, and thanks again to these lovely folks for speaking with me. Sorry this took so damn long to get out. I'm no YouTuber or writer, and this was just a vehicle for my own curiosity and a creative outlet that I find fun. Also just a massive excuse to be nostalgic. Appreciate anyone that responded to all the messages I sent out, and also sorry for sending them out in the first place. Apologies to the folks who contacted me after I had already started the editing process and just wasn't able to include them. We'll see what happens when this comes out. I might consider doing another one. Maybe.
Was still in, and the puppy was stuck to Mama's backside because there wasn't enough room for her to get in and sever the umbilical cord. The puppy's already out of the sack. It's breathing. It's going to be a little while for that to come out, enough for her to chew the umbilical cord. For half an hour, people in the chat were constantly trying to get me to call the puppy the butt puppy. I never said it in that stream.